Your little food place is finally useful, Dad laughed, sliding the loan documents across the kitchen table toward me with the casual dismissiveness he perfected over 30 years of underestimating me. My brother Derek smirked from his seat, already counting money he hadn't earned. Thanks for the collateral, sis. Your failed restaurant might actually help the family for once. But why was the bank manager now standing in the doorway, his face drained of all color, clutching a folder marked Urgent, Property Valuation Discrepancy? Mr. and Mrs. Holloway, we need to stop this transaction immediately. Dad's smile faltered. What are you talking about? We have an appointment. The paperwork is ready. Sir, I've just received an emergency alert from our commercial property division. The bank manager, a middle-aged man named Patterson who looked like he might actually be having a cardiac event, placed his folder on the table with trembling hands. The property you've listed as collateral for this loan, the restaurant at 847 Commerce Street, was flagged in our system. I assumed it was an error, so I made some calls. And? Derek demanded impatiently. And that property was recently appraised at $12.4 million. It holds 3 Michelin stars and is ranked as one of the top 50 restaurants in the United States. Patterson turned to look at me, recognition dawning on his face. You're Chef Camille Holloway. I've been trying to get a reservation at Ember for 8 months. The kitchen went absolutely silent. Derek's smirk had frozen into something grotesque. Mom's hand, still resting on mine in that patronizing, it's for family gesture, went rigid. And Dad looked like a man watching his entire understanding of reality collapse in real time. I don't understand, he said slowly. Camille's restaurant failed. Everyone knows that. She couldn't even keep the lights on the first year. Dad, I said, pulling my hand away from Mom's grip, you haven't asked about my restaurant in 6 years. You have no idea what it is. I opened Ember when I was 26 years old. It was supposed to be a small neighborhood bistro in the Arts District, the kind of place where locals could get a good meal without pretense. I'd saved for 5 years, working brutal kitchen jobs from San Francisco to Chicago, learning from some of the most demanding chefs in the country. I'd slept on friends' couches, eaten staff meals as my primary nutrition, and developed the kind of knife calluses that never fully heal. My family thought I was delusional. Restaurants fail, Dad had declared when I told them my plans. 90% of them close within the first year. You have a business degree from a perfectly good state school. Why would you throw that away to cook food? Because I'm good at it. Being good at something doesn't mean you can make money doing it. Your brother understands that. That's why he went into real estate. Practical. Stable. Smart. Derek, the golden child, had indeed gone into real estate. He'd also failed at it spectacularly 3 times, each failure bailed out by our parents' retirement savings, their home equity, their unwavering faith in their son's potential. But failures didn't count when you were the favorite. They were learning experiences and stepping stones. My success, on the other hand, was invisible. Because success in a field they didn't respect was the same as failure in their eyes. I stopped talking to them about Ember after the first year. It was easier that way. They asked occasionally, in that dismissive tone people use when they already decided on the answer, how's your little restaurant doing? And I'd say, fine, and they'd nod knowingly, assuming fine meant barely surviving. Fine actually meant I'd earned my first Michelin star. Then my second. Then my third. Fine meant James Beard nominations, profiles in food and wine, a cookbook deal with a major publisher. Fine meant selling out every reservation within minutes of release, hosting dignitaries and celebrities and food critics from around the world. Fine meant expanding into a boutique hotel partnership and launching a highly successful line of specialty products. But my family never knew because they never asked. And I stopped offering information to people who only wanted confirmation of my failure. Patterson, the bank manager, was now sweating visibly. Mr. Holloway, I need to be very clear about the situation. You've submitted loan documents claiming ownership of a property that belongs to your daughter. That's potentially fraudulent, we're her parents, Dad interrupted. The restaurant was in our name initially. We helped her get started. You co-signed the lease for the first year, I corrected. That ended 72 months ago. The property has been solely in my name, personally and through my business entity, since I bought out the building in year 3. You bought the building? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I bought the building, Mom. Along with the 2 adjacent properties. And the parking structure across the street. The total real estate portfolio attached to Ember is valued at approximately $18 million. Derek slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. There's no way your little food place is worth that much. I've driven past it. It doesn't even look that impressive from the outside. That's intentional. We don't want to attract tourists who just want to photograph their food. We want guests who care about the dining experience. 3 Michelin stars, Patterson repeated, seemingly unable to move past this fact. Chef Holloway, I apologize for the confusion. I had no idea your parents weren't aware. Why would they be? They've never visited. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Never? Patterson looked between me and my parents with undisguised horror. In 6 years? We've been busy, Dad said stiffly. And it's a long drive. It's 45 minutes, Dad. Derek lives an hour away and you visited his offices for every single one of his business launches. That was different. How? How was it different? He didn't have an answer. None of them did. I stood up from the table and addressed Patterson directly. I'm not signing anything that puts my property at risk for my brother's loan. Whatever they told you about having my consent was false. I understand completely, Chef Holloway. I'll need to file an incident report about the fraudulent documentation, but given your willingness to clarify. It wasn't fraudulent, Derek burst out. We didn't know. How were we supposed to know your stupid restaurant was worth anything? You never told us. You never asked. Not once in 6 years did anyone in this family ask how my business was actually doing. You just assumed it was failing because that's what you wanted to believe. Why would we assume anything else? You dropped out of the family business to go cook food. You chose a hobby over your own blood. I chose a career over being treated like I was invisible. My voice cracked, years of suppressed frustration finally breaking through. Dad offered Derek a position at his company straight out of college. He offered to fund Derek's first real estate venture. He co-signed Derek's second mortgage. What did I get? Restaurants fail, Camille. Be practical, Camille. Why can't you be more like your brother, Camille? We were trying to help you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. The meeting devolved from there. Patterson excused himself, clearly eager to escape the family dysfunction. Dad tried to argue that I owed them support because they were family. Mom cried, but it felt performative, tears designed to make me feel guilty rather than genuine emotion. And Derek, true to form, pivoted from entitlement to negotiation. Look, Camille, let's be realistic here. You've obviously done well. Better than anyone expected. But I'm still your brother, and I'm in trouble. The development deal I'm working on could change everything for me. If you just co-sign the loan, with your own property, since it's apparently worth so much, we could all benefit. How would I benefit? Well, he faltered. Family loyalty. Knowing you helped. Like the family loyalty you showed when you told everyone at Thanksgiving that I was playing chef while real adults had real jobs? Like when you brought your friends to the restaurant in year 1, the one time anyone from this family visited, and complained loudly about the prices until I comped your entire meal just to get you to leave? Derek's face went red. That was years ago. It was humiliating. You cost me a review from a food critic who was dining 3 tables away. He wrote that the chef's own family seemed unimpressed with the offerings. It took me 2 years to recover from that paragraph. I didn't know there was a critic there. You didn't care. You've never cared about anything I've done unless you could use it for yourself. I turned to my parents. And you too. You've spent 30 years telling me I wasn't good enough, wasn't practical enough, wasn't worthy of the same support you gave Derek. Well, here's the result. I'm a 3 Michelin star chef with an $18 million real estate portfolio, a James Beard Award, and a cookbook that's been translated into 14 languages. I built all of it without your help. Without your money. Without your belief. And I am not putting any of it at risk to bail out Derek for the 4th time, Dad's jaw tightened. If you walk away from this family, I'm not walking away from anything. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. I picked up my bag. When you're ready to have a relationship with me that doesn't involve dismissing my work or extracting my resources, you know where to find me. The restaurant is open Tuesday through Saturday. I'll leave your name with the host. Camille, wait. Mom stood up, her mascara smeared. We didn't know. You have to understand, we didn't know how successful you'd become. If you'd known, what? You would have been proud of me? You would have visited? You would have treated me like I mattered. I shook my head. The success doesn't change who I am, Mom. I'm the same person I was when I opened Ember with $50,000 in savings and a dream you called unrealistic. The only thing that's different now is that you can't pretend I failed. I walked out of my childhood home and didn't look back. 3 weeks later, I was in the kitchen at Ember when my sous chef, Marcus, approached me with a strange expression. Chef, there's someone at the host stand asking for you. Older woman. Says she's your mother. I set down my knife and wiped my hands. Did she have a reservation? No. The host offered to put her on the wait list, but she said she'd wait as long as necessary. I checked the clock. We were 2 hours from service, deep in prep work, surrounded by the controlled chaos that preceded every dinner rush. This was not the time for family drama. But something in Marcus's expression made me pause. She's been crying, he added quietly. Not making a scene. Just sitting there. Crying. I found my mother in the small waiting area near the entrance, clutching a tissue and staring at the wall of press clippings I'd framed near the host stand. Reviews from the New York Times, the LA Times, Eater, Bon Appetit. Photos of me accepting awards, cooking for charity events, meeting culinary icons I'd idolized since childhood. She didn't notice me approach. I didn't know, she whispered, still staring at the wall. I didn't know any of this. You could have. She flinched at my voice, turning to face me with red-rimmed eyes. Camille. I wasn't sure you'd see me. Marcus said you've been crying. I wanted to make sure you were okay. I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since you left that day. She gestured helplessly at the wall. I've been sitting here for an hour, reading these articles. About your awards. Your charity work. The culinary school scholarship you fund for underprivileged students. Her voice cracked. You're funding scholarships, Camille. Helping kids who can't afford culinary school. And I didn't even know. It's not something I advertise. No. Because you've always been private. You've always done things your own way, without needing applause. She wiped her eyes. I told myself you got that from me. The independence. The stubbornness. But I think maybe I just told myself that to feel connected to you. Because I haven't been. Connected. Not for a long time. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't sound either too forgiving or too harsh. Your father and I talked. After you left. We fought, actually. The worst fight we've had in years. She laughed bitterly. I told him he'd been so focused on saving Derek that he'd forgotten to see you. He told me I was just as guilty. He was right. What do you want, Mom? I want to understand. I want to know how my daughter became this. She gestured around the restaurant, while I was busy assuming she'd failed. I want to know why you stopped telling us about your life. And I want to know if it's too late to start over. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, for the first time in years. She was older than I remembered, smaller somehow, the fierce woman who dominated my childhood diminished by age and regret. It's not too late, I said carefully. But it has to be different. I'm not going to downplay my success to make you feel comfortable. I'm not going to pretend Ember is a little food place so Derek doesn't feel inadequate. And I'm definitely not going to bail anyone out financially. That chapter is closed. I don't want your money, Camille. Then what do you want? Dinner. She smiled weakly. I want to have dinner at my daughter's restaurant. I want to taste the food that earned 3 Michelin stars. I want to sit at a table and understand why 43 reviewers have called your tasting menu transcendent. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger toward my family. Something that might, eventually, become forgiveness. We're booked solid for the next 4 months. Her face fell. But I have a chef's table that I keep open for special occasions. I checked my watch. Service starts in 2 hours. Can you stay? The hope that flooded her expression was almost painful to witness. Really? Really? But Mom? If you're going to be here, you're going to experience the real Ember. No complaining about prices. No comments about portion sizes. No comparisons to chain restaurants. You eat what I serve, and you appreciate the work that went into it. Deal? Deal. I led her toward the kitchen. Come on. If you're staying for service, you might as well see how the magic happens. My mother stayed for 5 hours that night. She sat at the chef's table, watching my team execute 127 covers with the precision of a symphony orchestra. She tasted the amuse-bouche, the bread course, all 12 courses of the tasting menu, and the mignardises. She cried during the 6th course, a tribute to my grandmother's recipe, reinterpreted with modern techniques, and laughed during the 9th, when I personally delivered her plate with a theatrical flourish I usually reserved for VIPs. After service, we sat in the empty dining room with glasses of wine, talking until nearly 2 a.m. She told me about the fear she'd felt when I'd announced my career plans. How she'd been so certain I'd fail, not because she didn't believe in me, but because she couldn't imagine succeeding in a field so different from everything she understood. How that fear had calcified into dismissiveness because it was easier than confronting her own limitations. I told her about the early years. The 18-hour days. The investor who backed out at the last minute. The review that called my first menu ambitious but unfocused and sent me into a spiral of self-doubt. The night I'd almost closed the doors and walked away, only to receive a last-minute reservation from a critic who would eventually give me my first national recognition. I wish I'd known, she said. I wish I'd been there. I wish you had too. What happens now? With us? I thought about it. Now we start over. Slowly. You come to dinner when you can get a reservation, a real reservation, not a comped one. You ask about my life and actually listen to the answers. You treat my career with the same respect you've always given Derek's. And Derek? Derek is a grown man who needs to solve his own problems. If he wants a relationship with me, he can start by apologizing. Sincerely. Without asking for anything. Mom nodded slowly. That might take a while. I've waited 6 years. I can wait a little longer. My father came to Ember 3 weeks later, alone, without warning. He stood in the entrance, looking around at the understated elegance I'd worked so hard to create, the custom lighting, the handcrafted tables, the open kitchen where my team moved with practiced grace. "This is yours," he said, more statement than question. "This is mine. It's beautiful, Camille." I had no idea. "I know." He swallowed hard. "I've been wrong. About a lot of things. For a long time. Yes. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see you. What you've built. What you've become. And His voice broke. "I'm so proud of you. I should have been proud all along." I hugged my father for the first time in years, standing in the restaurant I'd built without him, surrounded by everything he'd told me I couldn't achieve. "Stay for dinner," I said. "Let me show you what I can do." He stayed. He ate. He cried during the 6th course, just like Mom had. And when he left, he hugged me again and said, "Same time next month?" Same time next month. Derek never apologized. He's still waiting for his next big break, still convinced that success is just around the corner, still wondering why no one wants to invest in his ideas. I send him a card every Christmas. Maybe someday he'll be ready to have a real conversation. Until then, I have a restaurant to run, a team to lead, and a legacy to build. My parents have dinner at Ember once a month now. Mom has become a regular at my cookbook signings. Dad tells everyone he meets about his daughter, the chef, as if he'd believed in me all along. I let him. Some fictions are kinder than the truth. And every night, when I stand in my kitchen and call out orders to my team, I remember what it felt like to be dismissed, underestimated, and overlooked. I remember my dad laughing about my little food place. Then I look at the 3 Michelin stars hanging in my office. And I smile. They measured my worth in their own currency, and found me lacking. So I created my own currency, built my own empire, and let the world determine my value. Turns out, when you stop asking for permission and start demanding excellence from yourself, the only approval that matters is the one you see in the mirror. Everything else is just seasoning.